Good morning, another Kerfuffle showcase, and I am delighted to have the good people from Eurolink here today with their fantastic Vico product. Let's do it in order as you are on screen with me at the moment. Emma and Richard, hello, how are you both?
Hello, very well, thank you.
Hi Simon, yeah, we're great, thanks. How are you doing?
That was good. Did you just try to do a Mr. Spock's kind of thing there, or was that actually? No. Okay, I didn't know if we were going full geek, full that earlier.
Just a wave.
just a wave. And you got the Kerfuffle gear there. That's fantastic. Clearly, I'm not going to speak to Chris as much because he's not taking the time, energy.
I'm sorry, upside down there. I was going to actually make one, funnily enough. I was going to just colour it in pink like a headband.
Well, but, now you've got me going there. We haven't thought about that, have we? Brilliant. Okay, so Rich, you're CEO of Eurolink. Chris, you're the full title Head of Business Development and Marketing, and
yep.
Emma, Head of New Business. Yep, that's right.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. And in days gone by, Rich, you'd have been throwing mud at me, and I'd have been trying to do the same to you, except you're far too professional, so you always won those pitches. But anyway,
I'm not too sure if we won everyone, but we had a healthy competition in the day, didn't we?
Good. We can talk about those stories around the fire when we're allowed to. Anyway, cool, guys. Look, the title of today is Can Vico, your CRM system, make life easier for an agent? If I say yes, do we just stop now and then we can move on, or should we?
Pretty much nailed it, yeah.
Because you know I'm not a detail person, don't you?
You're a big chunker, they call it, don't they? A big chunker.
Big chunker, cheeky get. No one's called me a big chunker yet so far. So obviously, I mean, from my point of view, obviously my previous company there, Eurolink and Vico were very much in that, in that top tier in terms of solution sell, being able to really. Whereas there was some kind of off-the-shelf packages that would do well for single office agencies, you were a very different kind of creature, weren't you, Rich? Do you want to just give us an idea about who is Vico, what is Vico, and give us a bit of the overview on that?
Yeah, no problem, Simon. Look, I guess we were one of the original prop tech companies. Yeah. We've celebrated 30 years this year in business. All we've ever existed for is to provide IT and software solutions for the UK residential property market. It's simple as that. We're privately owned, privately funded, UK owned. We're 26 property professionals, although over a quarter of us have worked client side, which I think is really important and always forms part of our recruitment process. We've got We're just about to hit 200 years of cumulative experience in Eurolink as a team. So hopefully that gives our clients, and both current and future, some level of comfort that we know what we're doing. We've been there before. We've experienced the difficulty of transferring from system to system, and we've always been we've always been genuine. We've always been honest about the fact that it's not an easy process. It's not an easy transition. And anyone who tells you it is, cut the meeting short, move on, go down your shortlist.
They're selling snake oil, aren't they? And it has always been the case.
Well, look, it's over-promising and under-delivering, and a lot of companies, I think getting away with it's probably a little bit unfair, but I suppose they think, well, once they're in, but it's not what it's about. You start a relationship off like that, it's not going to last ultimately, and people don't forget that.
Do you still get frustrated because there clearly are a number of providers out there that do operate, it seems, on that basis? You see from, you only have to listen to the pitch or see the emails there that they do, liken it to a sticking plaster. Oh yeah, it'll be fine. It's just a couple of minutes discomfort and everything else there. When a CRM system is as important as it is, it has to be the foundation of the business. It can never be as simple as that, can it? In terms of once you look at what is actually involved. I mean, as I said at the top of the show, I'm not a detail person, and I used to see our own project scoping documents, and I couldn't make it past page 3. The amount of whether it's templates, workflow, automation, integration, data, web feeds. It is mind-numbing, isn't it? The amount that you guys have to take into account when moving, and not just the largest agencies, even the smallest ones have ticks in the boxes in all those areas, don't they?
Well, take migrations, for example, data migrations. It's probably the single biggest fear when changing systems. And I think that's relative to any size of business, because everyone's data is relative to their company. And it's just as important to each company as well. But I think, again, there's always that flippant, well, we've been told by X, Y, Z that they've migrated from X to Y before, and it's easy. There's nothing easy about a data migration. I wish there was. I wish one of us could find the magic formula. It's just really difficult, and it takes a lot of commitment from both sides. It's not something that any of us, a Eurolink, Let MC, a Repit, a Propco, there's no magic fairy dust for a data migration. It needs both sides to really get involved in the process. And by doing that, you can make it smoother, but it's never easy and it's never straightforward.
The best you can hope for, isn't it, is when you can say, look, you're going to, Eurolink will minimize the disruption as much as possible to the business, isn't it? And that's really, the other thing is, though, it's also worth, we get caught between a rock and a hard place, because whilst you try to be realistic and, tell people, of course, that this isn't going to feel natural to you, it's going to be a bit of discomfort. It's also important not to go the other way, isn't it, as well? Because actually, if companies do work with you, it's not like there are, weeks, days or weeks of downtime per se, is it? It's just that it might take you a little bit of time to hit full usage capability and what you were expecting to get out of the package. But actually, real downtime is very rare these days, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, the most migrations, particularly the final migration, because of course, while we're on the topic of migrations, there'll be a number of migrations, test migrations leading up to that kind of go live scenario, and it's usually done out of hours, Simon, as you know. It's usually done on a weekend, depending on size of database. And the key is to minimize the disruption. There will be some disruption, but not masses of downtime. And I always sort of think, in my experience, if you look back at the projects that haven't gone as well as the ones that do, there's usually two factors involved. It was rushed, or there's been an expectation that everything comes from the service provider side. That's generally, in my experience, where things don't go as well as they otherwise could do.
I remember coming out, and they shall remain nameless, to go down with all my other skeletons in the cupboard. But I finished the demonstration after like 30 minutes, which is pretty unheard of, isn't it? In CRM, takes so long to show these days. And he was so happy, clapping. He said, "This is amazing." He says, "I want it." And I walked out there thinking, why can't they all be like that? And of course, it ended up as an absolute disaster, because he thought it made the tea. He thought he could get rid of all his staff. He thought the data conversion would just magically plop into place, everything else there. So I learned a valuable lesson that day, that as desperate as I am to get to the pub for lunch, make sure you do, you get the expectations over. Well, look, we've spoken about some of the sort of. And it is important to know, though, isn't it? Because actually, if you said yourself, if somebody comes to you and tell you this is going to be absolutely plain sailing, you don't need to worry about anything, just leave it to us. That is probably the biggest warning sign you can get from talking to somebody pitching for your business.
It's the ultimate red flag for me.
Cool. Good. Well, that's lesson one. I want to do the Chris Watkins sort of valuable lessons thing here. I'm trying to learn how to be professional. You see, Chris, how can you make an agent's life easier? And I assume that's Vico, not just you personally.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's talk about work here. So I think from my point of view, just sort of reversing back slightly and jumping on the back of what was just spoken about. When I came into technology, I came into the supplier side from client side. It was quite quite a transition for me, and I thought to myself, okay, well, this is going to be a sort of not an easy transition, but certainly one which wouldn't take as much time as it sort of did. So I think when you have to sort of adjust to a completely different mindset when you're in the CRM world, when you're talking about software to clients. There isn't a magic button. There isn't a one way of doing things. Each client is totally different, whether that client is a single office, a 2-office network, a 5-office network, or a big national organization. Everyone is totally different in the way that they do things and their expectations. So, we had to sort of quickly adjust to the fact that when we're going in to see clients, we're talking to them about what reasons they need to move ultimately. So, I think whereas before, 10, 15 years ago, it was sort of a new revolution, or 20 years ago, maybe, it's a new revolution that people or agents would remove themselves from the card system, the record card system with pen and paper and their printed details on the photocopier, to actually using technology and actually having a computer screen on their desk. And it was, it's a completely sort of different concept, but we're in a time now where we're really having to get into the detail of clients' needs and aspirations and growth strategies in order to deliver a solution which is right for their business. And I think that's really what we've had to do in terms of adjusting our approach to this pitch nowadays.
I think your problem is, isn't it, these days, is that you talk about going back as I would talk in the good old days, where, as Rich will remember, you could almost sell the software on the fact, this will upload to my website and the right move. Well, again, that was that's it. And at some point, I don't remember when it was, and I can't remember if I actually helped create it, but we moved from being a state agency software, didn't we, to this more generic CRM. I think I nicked it from the Australians, actually, as I'm always loath to do. But that's the point these days, isn't it? It does, from getting away from the basic matching and mailing as it used to do, uploading to the web, basic reporting and everything else there, to genuine niche CRM software where actually you could sit in a room, it'd be painful, and just look at what these systems do over 2-3 days, and you still wouldn't see every element of what they're about.
Absolutely. So, I think, again, it's a matter of, looking back at these demonstrations and these consultation sessions that used to occur. It was a case of, showcasing all of these fantastic features and say, pal, here's the money shot. Here's the biggest selling point for you. But now it's more of much more of a consultative approach. So, we've looked at our sort of typical profile of agent because, being from experience now, we've learned of what type of business that is going to be the best fit for us, and we're the best fit for them. So we're having to really sort of ask a lot more questions and get the whiteboard out, the flip chart, and start mapping out processes and understanding where we can fit in and where we're going to offer value. And when when we look at how we can make agents' lives easier, all that is relatively detailed. You don't want to put people off by going through that procurement process in sort of fine with a fine-tooth comb. But we just want to get the basics exceptionally right, and whether that's the right thing grammatically, maybe I can rephrase that slightly. But we want to be. We want to offer the basics, the basic solutions exceptionally well, and we've designed an approach and ultimately a product suite which I think complements that attitude.
And that's all backed up again by the people. It can never just be about. It strikes me at a time now where so many of the different CRM providers are maybe understandably just focusing on the software itself. It's all very trendy software as a service and everything else there, but they seem to be steering away from actually that most vital of elements of the people that are sat behind making it happen, that are able to sit with you and help you get the most out of that. And it strikes me that what Eurolink are doing at the moment is actually saying, hang on a minute, we see that as one of our USPs. And probably I would say is the right thing to do, because from your point of view, of course, Rich mentioned they're almost 200 years of knowledge, and there's Peter Pan though you may be, you've got lots of knowledge yourself, and especially when you're one of those rarer CRM companies that actually can specialize both on sales and lettings and accounts. That's where it's worth its weight in spades, isn't it? There, because as we can see, we'll say this offline, you can see some of those providers that are profess to go do lettings, and they're car crashes, aren't they?
I think it's fair to say we were certainly one of the pioneers of the one system. I mean, talking about those old days, and don't get me wrong, agents still have multiple software to deal with their day-to-day operations. But Vico, the brand, was established to create a one system, multidiscipline, every discipline in the residential sector. We set out, that was our mission at the time. We're gonna build the one system, and we're still working at that. We don't think, Simon, software's never finished. You just keep going. But I think a few things you both said there, making sure we do the basics really, really well, but also remembering that this is a people business. And you could almost argue that technology is the imposter, because we've seen what's happened with the onliners. They all thought they'd take 50% market share like that. No big deal, probably 6 to 8 months, 9 at a push. What have they got? 6% of the market? Yeah. I mean, that says a hell of a lot to me about the UK, about us as British people, and how we buy, sell, let and rent property. It is a people business. What we've got to do is complement those people with really good technology, great automation, customize things around those people and their teams and how they work and how they want to work. And that's the difference between 15, 20 years ago and today. You've got to be mobile, you've got to be customizable, configurable, you've got to have good client portals, you've got to have the full suite. But it must always be focused on the user.
Yeah. And one of the key things you said there as well, which made me laugh, thinking back on it again, is, it does never stand still. And when you look at some of these companies that wanted to go down the bespoke route, ordinarily they would have been influenced by, their own IT department or, an external company who would have convinced them, look, oh yes, it's probably going to cost a lot of money to, get it up. But once it's developed, oh yeah, you don't have to spend anything going forwards. And then things like GDPR lands on in your lap, and they what? So we're not going to make the products GDPR enabled, and that's just one example, isn't it? So it's a classic example there where I see no future realistically for people wanting to go down the bespoke route, considering how much these packages have to do these days. So do you think, I've certainly been talking about it for a long time, is that because actually there's a lot of CRM packages out there that specialize in sales or lettings. There's very few that do the job for both. And I don't think there's a bigger win on the supplier side of your business that you can do by bringing those two, the sales and lettings, together successfully, is there? I'm sure you would agree with that.
Absolutely. Not necessarily users doing both sales and lettings, because I think they're a skill set in their own. But certainly having one database and making sure that database is working hard for every area of your business. Particularly, obviously, a typical example is someone's going in, they want to let a property. They're asked what their current circumstances are. I'm in the process of selling. Where are you selling? I'm selling in Pimlico. We've got an office in Pimlico. The software automates the inquiry over to the Pimlico office. They're picking up, ringing that client. That's great CRM. But also, if that was me walking in, I'd be really impressed that they were so joined up.
Yes, rather than having to go through the whole process again, because all they've passed on is the basic details. Let's just deal with a couple of questions or observations that have come in. It appears that we've got a CRM salespeople assemble going on here, because the wonderful Carla Burnett has just popped in with morning, guys. The chat about data transfers is very familiar. Yeah, I think we've all been through that particular challenge, haven't we, when selling the software. Hi, Neil. Nice to see you on here. He talks about doing the basics well. Doesn't really matter what business you're in, does it? It's absolutely, you get that right and you can build from there. but so many companies try to go for that kind of that big USP point, don't they? Again, going back to a lot of the bespoke packages, I think the principles of the business say, oh, we're going to do this amazing thing over here. And they forget just the absolute wealth of what you're talking about, Rich, 30 years of accumulated knowledge and best practice, and clients honing the package on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis is massive.
But I think Sam at Home Search said it best on one of the Kerfuffle spotlights. He talked about prop tech and new products solving problems that actually either don't exist or aren't that important to agents. And I think that's where, look, we're probably known as the steady eddies of the industry, and we'll take that reputation, because actually there'll be a lot of agents out there who want the steady, long established, knowledgeable company to help them get everything right and all those basics right and automated and in great shape.
Steady Eddie, as you said, gets a bad rep sometimes, but you don't want to be all exciting and on the edge of your seat and sort of a bit wide in two areas. I would suggest accountancy, a la Enron, and CRM software, because you get either of those wrong, and again, you're in a bad place, aren't you?
Sure.
So we've got Michelle here just pops in as well. Absolutely agree. Technology is to complement, not take over. Thanks, Michelle. Absolutely agree with that. So, Rich, obviously you have got that long-standing relationship with so many of those clients. What do you think? Why do you think they stay with you?
Well, I guess I'd like. Well, look, let's look at the crux of it. A typical product life cycle is probably around 7. Well, we know it's 7 to 11 years. It depends on the size of the agent, but every 7 to 11 years, every agent will consider their CRM, their accountancy systems, and their IT. So what do we need to do to make sure at that point of 7 to 11 years, when they are reviewing, why would they want to stay with us? I mean, look, we operate our business on the backdrop of 4 basic core values: being genuine with people, being straight with people. And I believe certainly we have a reputation for that. Being supportive of people, their companies, their users. Again, I think our stats speak for themselves. Last month, we of all of our support calls, we hit our under 30-minute fixed time, not response time, fixed time target, which is an internal SLA. Yeah. We got 9 out of 10 average feedback score from 70 responses. Now, getting anyone to respond to how good was a support call, I think that's an achievement in itself. Getting good scores is remarkable.
Just getting engagement with us.
Exactly. Off the back of, can you fix my problem? Yes, we can. Great. I want to move on. To then take the time, I think, is great. So for 70 users to go out of their way, I think that says something.
Thanks a lot.
Number 3 would be, I better remember these, hadn't I? Innovative. So we've got to innovate. If we get to the 7 to 11 years and we haven't moved on, we haven't innovated, then they're going to move on. However, if we have, and we have worked out solutions for portals and mobile working, for example, at the moment, then why would they leave? And finally, focused, keeping focused on what we do, not getting distracted by trying to build a fixed flow. We don't need to build a fixed flow. We can integrate with fixed flow. We don't need to build a referencing company. There are lots of great referencing companies. We don't need to build these parts of our product. Stick to what we do best. Be the be the center of that ecosystem of prop tech. I've rolled that line out a few times, but I genuinely believe it. It's our database sits in the middle of a whole plethora of platforms and products and apps, and that's where we need to keep focused.
I think that epiphany.
That's why people stay with us, and relationship, obviously, but that comes with being genuine with people.
Yeah, you get the goodwill from the relationship, don't you? That, if you ever need a bit of goodwill in the bank, it's something, and sometimes things are going to inevitably go wrong. That relationship gives you the time to fix the issue and move on to it, doesn't it? It is interesting, that point though, actually, that CRM companies did have a bit of an epiphany, didn't they? Because at one stage, if we go back to the days of Vibra, it looked like the march was towards, we have to do everything ourselves. We do have to own all of the companies. And actually, at some point, CRM companies woke up to the fact that, look, our job is just to integrate with the best-in-class providers. It isn't to actually have to do it all ourselves, isn't it? And I think that has been for the good of the industry on the whole. It's taken time, of course, because still, just by integrating with third parties, there's still a lot of work there, isn't there? But actually, for the good of the agents, that's going to help them in the long run.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure of it. But that's where we're going. Look, Emma's role is very new to us. Emma's in her fifth week. So. It'd be interesting to sort of hear from Emma her kind of first impressions of us. Do we follow our core values? I'm putting myself on the spot here. I certainly hope we do. But also her views on the industry.
Don't make this the shortest employment ever. Say the right things, no matter what.
Absolutely, no pressure.
Emma, your background is you were the auctions behemoth. I am sold.
I was last year, but prior to that, I was at the Guild as regional manager for the Guild. So I met an awful lot of independent agents and talked to them a lot about what they needed their systems to do.
Excellent. And so give us a flavour then. So what have you, getting in, finding the company, what has impressed you most about Eurolink and the Vico product?
That they're all so knowledgeable about what they do, and it's very much a driven team that everyone is working towards the same goals. And yeah, very innovative. The fact that the product is better now than it was 6 months ago, and I have no doubt will be better in 6 months' time than it is now. And it's great to be a part of that. It's really exciting.
That's great. And we've touched on it a little bit, but what's your perception of which agents will work best for you?
I think Vico works best for agents that are sort of multi-branch, multi-region, multi-branded, multi-disciplined. But more importantly, I think it's the ones who are looking to scale up. So they want a software that will help them grow, having that single software that's accessed by their different applications to be able to do what they need it to do. As you know, as we've covered a little bit, they need their software to do everything from marketing and matching and portals to the other end with lettings to arrears chasing to gas safety certificates and sales progression, everything in between. So by centralizing it as having that one software that does pretty much everything, but everyone is able to access it in the way that they need to access it for the format and what they need it to do for them, I think it makes managing it all so much simpler.
Yeah, excellent.
I think the scaling up point is a really good point, actually, because again, I assume that most business owners or shareholders or corporates, they want to grow, right? They want to scale up.
That's ultimately what we're doing it for, isn't it? Yeah.
What are we doing it for? So in 99% of cases, I guess that's what it's about. It's how can we help them scale? I guess I won't name names, but I can think of a client of ours. Two guys left a corporate who happened to be using our software, went on their own, didn't use our software, went with another software, got to 2 offices, realized it wasn't quite fit for purpose, wasn't quite doing what they needed it to do in the short and medium term. They're 25 offices now. They've got relationships with, I think it's nearly 45,000 properties. And we talk about relationships with properties. 15,000 active lettings relationships, 8,500 sales relationships. But the interesting thing with them is they're automating over 220 processes. Yeah. Now, I would say for anyone with any software, not just Vico, anyone who's watching this now or in the future, invest time first and foremost in your software, because you will get more out of it. I know that seems like an obvious thing, but think about Excel. We all have used Excel at one point in our lives.
You should see my Excel spreadsheets. They're incredible.
Genius. I would imagine they're multicolored.
Stephen Hawking couldn't sort out my sums.
but we scratched the surface with these amazing products. And it's the same with PropTech. Invest time, energy, effort into it, and some money, obviously, because training and making sure that you're getting the right consultation at the right time, you're keeping up to your updates. Emma said the software's better than it was 6 months ago. Do all of our clients know that? Possibly not. I'd like to think they do, but in reality, they probably don't. So, if you want to scale up, yeah, we're probably one of a short list of people that you should see.
I want to get back to that automation point later on, because that was always my perception of one of your USPs and strengths. But I think you're absolutely right there. My perception is I remember a lot of CRM providers having to withdraw from pitches from agents when it got quite complex, and we were always, I know, very impressed with Vico's, first of all, sort of man management, the empathy to be able to understand where the client was in the industry, what they needed to do, and then to reflect that back into the software itself, which of course then had the adaptability and customization to be able to cater for that. So thank you very much, Emma, Richard, Chris. Fantastic. Hope to catch up with you all soon.
Nice one. Thanks, Simon.